Bit of light work today on the Morris 1000, literally, because a sealed beam unit's gone. Now, being a 1962 car, this should have the replaceable bulb 700 headlamps. It was always on the cards that I was going to put it back to those headlamps, but whilst the sealed beams were doing a good job, these were with the car when I bought it, I left them alone. Now a dipped beam filament has gone, hence the reason for this. Now is the opportunity to put it back to the 700 spec headlamps. I think the Morris Minor, the specification was changed to sealed beam units in about 1965, and the problem with the 700 headlamps with a replaceable bulb is that the reflectors often went on them. They became tarnished or corroded, and there may also have been as time wore on, because you've got to remember finding parts for these cars in the 1970s, and I'm speaking old cars generally, say the 1980s or whatever. There may have been difficulties in obtaining 700 headlamps, possibly. Parts supply wasn't as well supported and distributed as it is these days with the internet, etc., and dedicated traders. It was a case of what the motor factors or the manufacturer had available. So there were plenty of sealed beam units around because millions of cars used them. They were the industry standard. They replaced, and they were a direct replacement for the 700 headlamp. You can see here with the E mark, this is quite a later unit. There's probably a date code on there somewhere that someone can decipher, but yeah, sealed beams. I've got these fitted to the Bedford, which in the opposite turn of events should have 700 headlamps with a 414 bulb and a side light aperture, but I converted them to sealed beam with a 5-watt bulb, just because I had wiring harnesses, and I'm using my 700 headlamps for other projects, this and the Vanguard. I digress anyway. So over time, for whatever reason, the original reflectors have had to be replaced, and I've seen this on many cars where whoever's done the job has bought a sealed beam unit, and the connectors of course are different, because for the bulb type it would be one of these. So what they end up doing is just snipping that connector off and crimping some spades on there. These female Lucar connectors. The correct way to do it, of course, would have been to buy a replacement wiring harness with the correct sealed beam connector on it. Otherwise the wiring didn't have to be altered, but as is often the case with these things, it is now showing its age. The lighting sub-harnesses for many years after main looms went to PVC coated wiring with the colours. The wiring looms retained the cloth traces there, the cloth outer covering. Underneath it's PVC or plastic, it's black, but the coloured covering for identification remained cloth. These deteriorate over time and lose the colour. So even though they're still functional, when I eventually get round to restoring the engine bay, which is the one major job left on this car. Mechanically now it's spot on with my rebuilt engine and low mileage transmission I obtained from that car I scrapped, dismantled. The one big job left to do is to totally strip and repaint the engine bay, because this is now, it's the one outstanding thing that's letting the car down. And I'm also going to be sorting out the wiring loom, just give it a new outer covering. And again, a similar story there with the flasher can. It should have had screw terminals. The flasher can had obviously failed at some point, and a later one with spades was fitted, and they've snipped the terminals off. Again, I've got the wiring loom from that 1962 saloon I dismantled for this very purpose, so it's just a case of getting a good window of opportunity to do all this, which is hard when you're in rented accommodation and got a full-time job. It'll get done eventually though. I really do want to push on with it though, because then it'll be a proper show car I can be proud of. Wiring looms, yes, I've got a couple of sub harnesses for it. The buckets here, as they're colloquially known, the headlamp buckets, they're another weak spot. These, when I had the bodywork restored, I'm sure these were the ones that were on the car that they managed to retain, and they've given it a coat of paint, which was admirable. And I don't know if you can just make this out up there, but they often, yeah, you can. This is under the wheel arch, where they're quite vulnerable to everything that gets flung up. Consequently, they do rust away and eventually rust through if you're not fastidious with your cleaning. And then that's it, they're done then. This has got some damage for the rim retaining screw, so I'm going to remove that. I've got another one I'll show you in just a moment. But if I go over here, here we are, look. I've just been preparing these. These are part of the rim assembly, which fits onto the ball and allows you to, well, it secures the light unit and allows you to adjust the aim of the lamp. But they often go down at the bottom there. Again, where being at the front of the car, it's quite vulnerable to spray from other vehicles that you're following, and they do suffer from corrosion, but it's a good thick piece of metal, is that. So I've just treated that with cure rust, and I'm going to give these a coat of paint, protective paint. I'll mention them in just a moment, but the next thing will be the replacement bucket. Which is here. This is an old stock example. I was fortunate to buy that. Stuff like this I just buy on site, because they're a finite resource. Reproductions are made, and I believe even plastic ones were made. But as you know, with me, I'm very particular about these things, so original parts it had to be. Now, when when a garage would replace one of these in the old days, they would have just fitted it how it arrived, like this. It's just steel, black Japan steel, that's all it is, which is why they were vulnerable to corrosion. So it certainly won't be out of order to give it an extra coat or two of paint. And those adjusting screws I've taken out just to give them a treatment as well. And when I replace them, I will be filling these holes well with grease to prevent seizure. It's worth doing this sort of thing now because it does pay dividends in the future and ensures the survival of stuff. You can see there where it's starting to go just from storage as well. It were only, as I say, it were only a thin coat of paint. Garages didn't have the time or inclination to do it for what was a functional object. But now, of course, the cars are more cosseted. We should do these things, and you can do them at your leisure. I also found these. I forgot I had them. These are the new rims. So I'm thinking I'll use these on the Miner, and I'll use them other ones I'm going to paint for the standard Vanguard, because that has the wrong headlamps as well. So in time it'll all this stuff will come into good use, be put to use on my projects. So that's had its extra coat of paint. It's just drying. I'll leave it there overnight, and that's going to be a bit better than it was. And I have another one here which I've just washed and is drying in the sun before painting, because I want to do them both. The reason being, I'll show you soon, but one of the adjusting the headlamp adjuster screws in the offside unit is gone. It's knackered, it's not biting on the thread. And so this is number 2, which I had in stock. I actually bought these from a Morris Minor parts dealer for this very purpose. Now, here is the standard SAE H69. Well, I'm presuming it's a standard. SAE, of course, is Society of Automotive Engineers. In other words, this is going to be a guaranteed fit. Yes, the plastic ones would obviously have the advantage of being non-corrosive. They're never going to rot away, but I like to have the real thing. I suppose it was a bit like fiberglass wings, really. They do the job and they look alright, but you still know they're not steel. Just another point of interest before I remove this, I've undone the retaining screws there, which are held in place by a captive bolt. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. It's a similar arrangement to the gearbox cover. The danger, of course, is that they seize up. You can't remove these, and it just ends up knackering it up and making a right mess with lots of swearing and cursing. Fortunately with these, because it's not been that, well, it's only been a couple of years since I got it back from the body shop, they were still alright. So with a drop of plus gas on the other side, they come out without much drama. One casualty here you see has has been chewed up due to its stubbornness. But I think these are the wrong screws, because when I dismantled that scrapper, I'm sure they were cheese head instead of these domed head or pan head or whatever you'd call them. Cheese head screws would of course have the advantage of a larger surface area for the slot, so your screwdriver blade would have a better area to work on. Now, if that was 2BA, which it is, my plan was to replace them all with cheese heads, like so. Unfortunately, my stocks of cheese head screws in 2BA have diminished. They've dwindled away. So I'm going to have to buy some more of them. But in the meantime, I'll just reuse these with plenty of grease on the captive nuts. Right, the bucket's out, and oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You see, if there's one thing I have learnt from working on old vehicles, is that when you start one job, there's always umpteen other things, several other jobs that need doing as a consequence. Now, it does depend on your outlook, of course, and your motives, how far you want to go. I could have just replaced the sealed beam unit because I've got plenty of them, but this is my personal car that I am keeping long term. In fact, I intend this to last me the rest of my life. So I'm gonna have to deal with this. Typical weakness of this era car around the headlights, there being no wheel arch liner. So you're speeding along on a wet road or a muddy road, and there you go, everything gets flung up, including this wedge-shaped bucket, which acts as a convenient mud trap. You used to see, well, not so much anymore because there are hardly any left, but you used to see cars where they'd go all over here. The standard Vanguard, for instance, I've demonstrated it on that, where mud, it just acts as a sponge, and this is the ultimate result. Obviously I couldn't see that with the headlights in place, but now I can, and I've just got, well, fortunately that's not bad actually, but I can nip it in the bud. You see there where mud's collected in the seam, because the ring around there, it was attached with the captive nuts. It's part of the wing, which was a factory BMC or British Leyland replacement wing. I sourced that at great expense because I wanted a factory wing, factory panel, so I want it to remain almost in factory condition. So I'm going to rub that down, and then I'll fill in these gaps. I'll put some putty in there after I've treated it and painted it. I'll make sure there's plenty of putty in there to prevent a recurrence of this. And as for that, I mean, well, you can see the wirings, as I said, the wirings had it. Look, I mean, there's extra bullet connectors crimped on there. So that's for the bin, but the bucket itself, it needs a new rim clip, but that can see further life on the standard Vanguard. So yeah, it's recycling, you see. Oh, it is an original Lucas C, which is not. Oh right, thank you. Yeah, so that'll see further service in the Vanguard, because that's never going to be a minter of a car. It's only ever going to be functional, driven in all weathers. So yeah, it's got, you know, a day or two's work to do this now. That's not going to be doing much adjusting. Right, well, I did remove the offside as well. It would have been daft not to, really, especially while I had the painting gear out. Not that big a job, actually. I mentioned that this was a factory, new old stock British Leyland factory wing. So as I was looking at it, I thought, bloody hell, it's not done too well at all with this corrosion here. And then I was just studying it, and I noticed this pitting, and I thought, well, I can't remember it being like that. So I consulted my notes, because we're going back about 6 years here, 5 or 6 years since I had this restored. This was actually a good used wing that I'd sourced. It was that one I'll get onto in a minute that was the factory old stock wing. So that explains why it's sort of pre-rusted. I've scraped the inside out of all the loose rust, and incidentally, a very useful weapon in your toolkit is an air duster, which is just an aerosol can of compressed air, which you squirt out at its high pressure. It directs a high pressure jet of air, which is ideal for blasting out these nooks and crannies. So moving on to this one, as you can see, that is definitely a lot better. That is the factory wing there. So yeah, not a lot wrong with that at all. Just a bit of minor paint bubbling and corrosion there at the bottom where the water drains and collects. But yeah, otherwise very good. So not as bad as I'd feared. Yes, so I'm just preparing the headlamps to go on the car now. These are things I've bought from Auto Jumbles. A word of caution: if you do have some of these, do seal that off. Like on this one, for instance, it's had a cap, a protective cap put on it. Do not handle the reflector, don't put your finger in, and do not try and clean it with any abrasives, because that is silvered, and the slightest abrasion will remove the silvering. That's one advantage of the sealed beam. They were cast as one piece of glass, of course. Also, they didn't allow water in, unlike these. Sometimes water gets in and forms condensation, corroding the reflector. I've seen that happen many times. So yeah, that's why the sealed beam was introduced, because it was vastly better in that respect. Not that there's anything wrong with these at all. They do provide an excellent beam. But yeah, just a bit of technical talk there. Now this is nice. I just buy these from Auto Jumbles. They're about £1 a bulb. Worth buying up. We've got 50 and 40 watts there. BPF, BFS. BPF is British Pre-Focus. A nice little BMC box, which is what the Morris 1000 owner would have bought from the dealer's parts counter. And the icing on the cake, not that it's ever going to be seen, is you can just make that out there. It's got the BMC rosette on the bulb. which is quite nice. So that's brand new, and it's going to fit in there. Now regarding wiring harnesses, I made 2 up, but I know one was defective, even though I seemed to have continuity. But I'm going to give that another try. The trouble with the originals is that you can't reuse the caps. The connections, the terminals there were made in such a way that you can't reuse them. I think they were crimped in place, a heat formed. Whatever, you can't desolder them and reuse them again. So I bought some brass, or were they copper or brass rivets there, and I used them. But I'll give them another go. But when I did test them years ago after I made them, one of them didn't work. I'll give it another go, and I do need light somehow. If the worst comes to the worst, I'll use one of the other original wiring harnesses that I've got. And there you go, another nice old box. I do like the old packaging there, unmarred by barcodes and health warnings. Do not eat the bulb. I've tested both of those wiring harnesses, and they are now both working, so I don't know why I thought only one was. It's been a long time since I made them, but I did make them for this very car to the correct length, so I'm pleased with that. Now these apertures are ready to receive the painted buckets. So I've filled the gaps there with what is a very rare commodity these days, Dum Dum. I have a couple of tins of this stuff obtained from second-hand markets, because that was the sealant. Now I know you can get silicone things and tiger seal and that sort of thing nowadays. Silicone has no place in car bodywork, not of this age anyway. And as for the other sealants in a cartridge gun, I've found that they have shrunk and cracked over time. So this promises to hold up a lot better. So there's the painted bucket with its extra coats of paint. These screw holes for the headlamp adjusters should be filled with grease, and then the black plastic caps should be replaced. So I'll do that, and then in they go. So they're in situ now. Missing one retaining screw. That's the one that was irrevocably chewed up. Now I did have thoughts of running a tap, cutting a 2BA thread down this, which was a snapped adjuster screw, one of them that was snapped, that I showed you, but I don't have the time. I've ordered some brass cheesehead 2BA machine screws, brass of course being non-ferrous, which will overcome the problems that these had. Well, 2 problems: an unsuitable head for starters, and being made of I think they must have been cut from steel, because there is evidence of rust on them. Yeah, they are steel screws then. So now it's time to fit the wiring. Yes, I was quite pleased with myself making these up. Something else which makes it, well, I've made it better than factory, that they never bothered with, is to put some of this protective sheathing over the wire, just enough for it to reach through the exposed part of the wing there until it comes out what will be the grommet in there when I refit it. Just keeps the weather off it, you see. Not ideal with cloth covered wiring. Oh yeah, and what else do I need? I'm gonna have to, you see here, this is wrong crimps used on the flasher can. In fact, that's not even meant to be there. It's meant to be secured to one of the wing bolts, which I've got. I've got the correct one from the scrapper for when the time comes. It should have an earth terminal, one of them butterfly type. I don't know if you can see this one down here with the light. You can just about see it. With that bell-mouthed cable clip. I've got a bag full of them rip-offs, old stock, so I'll fit one of them. One thing to be aware of, two different types of rims, a deep one and a shallow one. It's the deep one needed for these 700 lamps. So just beware of that if you are doing a job like this. Your shallow rims will not fit. There we are. Not the best rim, but it will do until such time as I can find a better condition one. Use the correct screws. Note that they do not have a pointy end and they are shallow. These are headlamp, specific headlamp screws for the rim. I've saved these from cars such as the scrapper. Quite often you find someone's just used any old screw. They have to be shallow, otherwise they will butt the bucket there and interfere with the seating and therefore the aim. So that's now ready to fit. Wiring's in place there. Yeah, I'll give it, fit it up, then do the other one. Another nice detail, sadly lacking on this connector, but the proper Lucas ones with a knurled edge for grip, for finger grip, would have a line or an arrow that corresponds with this one, which tells you which way is the correct fitment, because these bayonet pins, they're offset. So at a glance you can just read that. Two arrows pointing to one another. You can still buy these new, of course, but I like the old stock stuff. Good make and all them. Obviously, I had to do that, remove that bolt Whitworth size on the Morris Minor body. Grease it well, grease the threads well before refitting. And another top tip from me, before you insert the bullets, just give them a little smear of Vaseline. It just wards off corrosion and helps them go in and come out again. So now, with them all connected up and in place, now is the time to test them. Then there'll be a bit of beam setting to do as well. I'm happy with that now, and it was just a case of aligning the headlights beams, which I'm pretty experienced in doing just by road testing when it's dark. Otherwise you'd have to have a beam setter, special equipment, but I've set them up now. just how they should be. They give a very good beam. And there's only one thing left to do now. Well, two things left to do. Fit the rim, of course, but before fitting the rim, the dust shield. These are often missing on cars, and I didn't have any for this, so I've ordered a pair of them there, you see. They just go over the lamp unit like so, and they're meant to keep dust etc out, stop the adjusters etc getting clogged up. But there it is, yeah, another job done. The car looks a lot better for it, having the correct headlights. So yes, very well satisfied. And now it will be on to the next job, whatever I decide to do. A bit of bodywork maintenance, I think, because 4 or 5 years after the restoration, it is starting to show a bit of wear and tear.